The North Country community in Fort Drum rallied to help people during this water emergency. 7 News reporter Lexi Bruning was there as soldiers dropped the water off and people filled up.
A 50-minute drive to Watertown, Chris Sherwin with the Morristown Fire Department didn't think twice before making the trip.
Wow, no water for the city of Watertown.
He brought more than 6,000 gallons of water with him.
Well, I've been a volunteer fireman for 35 years, and I enjoy serving my community and the community that surrounds the one that I live in.
Behind Sherwin, a line of headlights lit up the Watertown High School parking lot Thursday night. The sound of flowing water was clear as day as people filled their trucks and their trunks with jugs of water.
We've got our water, our non-drinking water, and we're going to go home and I'm going to have a glass of wine and everything will be fine.
It was all hands on deck as state police, the Morristown Fire Department, and Fort Drum soldiers filled, capped, and repeated. For these soldiers, it was a test of their training.
The personnel that we have that are coming out to these different locations, we're just doing water training on their equipment as well as just perfecting their skills just 2 weeks ago, so this is perfect.
The water in these 2,000-gallon tanks, or as the Army calls them, hippos, came from the wells on Fort Drum.
This is what the Army does, support our communities and our country.
Residents say this is what the North Country is all about.
Families taking care of families, people taking care of people.
If you need water, you can get in line to fill up on drinking and non-drinking water Friday morning starting at 7 a.m. Lexi Bruning, 7 News.